Why does an aircraft engine quit? It's one of the most frightening scenarios any pilot can face. And yet, it is not as mysterious as it may sound. While the image of a sudden, unexplained engine failure might seem like something from a movie, in reality, most cases have clear causes. Understanding these causes can be the difference between panic and control, between disaster and a safe landing. Let's step inside the cockpit and explore exactly why an aircraft engine might stop working. Mid-flight. In aviation, engines are the beating hearts of the aircraft, turning fuel into thrust, allowing a heavy metal machine to defy gravity. When they quit, the first question is always why. The answer often depends on whether we are talking about piston engines, like those used in small general aviation aircraft, or turbine engines, like those on commercial airliners and fighter jets. While the details vary, many of the root causes overlap. One of the most common reasons for an engine to quit is fuel starvation. This can happen for a surprisingly simple reason: the aircraft runs out of usable fuel. This is not always because the tanks are empty. Sometimes, fuel is present, but cannot reach the engine due to mismanagement of fuel selectors, blocked fuel lines, or malfunctioning pumps. Pilots are trained to manage fuel carefully, switching between tanks to keep the balance and ensure uninterrupted flow. However, in rare cases, human error or miscalculation of fuel burn can lead to starvation. Even a clogged fuel filter or water contamination in the fuel system can interrupt supply, starving the engine of what it needs to keep running. Another culprit is fuel contamination. Aviation fuel must be kept extremely clean and free of impurities. If water gets into the fuel tanks, either from condensation or refueling in wet conditions, it can cause the engine to sputter or quit entirely. Water is heavier than fuel, so it sinks to the bottom of the tank. And if the fuel intake draws it into the engine, combustion will stop. Similarly, debris or microbial growth in the tanks can block fuel flow, causing a sudden failure. That's why pilots perform careful pre-flight fuel checks, draining a small sample from each tank to inspect for clarity and purity. Beyond fuel issues, mechanical failure is another major category. Engines are complex assemblies of moving parts: pistons, valves, bearings, compressors, turbines, each of which must work in harmony under intense stress. Over time, wear and tear, manufacturing defects, or improper maintenance can lead to component failure. In piston engines, a broken connecting rod or a stuck valve can bring everything to a halt. In jet engines, blade fractures in the turbine or compressor stages can cause catastrophic damage, forcing the engine to shut down to prevent further destruction. Sometimes, an engine quits because of ignition problems. In piston engines, spark plugs ignite the fuel-air mixture in each cylinder. If the ignition system fails due to a faulty magneto, broken wiring, or fouled spark plugs, the engine loses its ability to combust fuel. Turbine engines use igniters for startup and rely on continuous combustion afterward. But a flameout can occur if airflow or fuel flow is disrupted, snuffing out the fire in the combustion chamber. Airflow disruptions themselves are a critical factor. Engines, especially jet engines, need a steady, smooth flow of air to maintain power. If that airflow is blocked or disturbed, performance drops sharply. Bird strikes are a dramatic example. If a bird is ingested into the engine, it can damage the fan blades and disrupt the airflow, leading to a stall or shutdown. In cold climates, ice can form on the engine intakes or inside the compressor stages, choking the airflow. That's why anti-ice systems are installed and must be activated before conditions allow icing to build. Another phenomenon that can cause engine stoppage is carburetor icing, common in small aircraft with piston engines. As fuel vaporizes inside the carburetor, it cools rapidly, and under certain humidity and temperature conditions, ice can form inside the carb throat. This restricts airflow and disrupts fuel vaporization, causing the engine to lose power or quit. Pilots counter this with carburetor heat controls, which direct warm air into the system to melt any ice. In turbine-powered aircraft, a flameout can occur during certain flight conditions, especially at high altitudes or in heavy precipitation. Ingestion of large amounts of rain or hail can quench the flame in the combustor, essentially putting out the fire. Similarly, severe turbulence or abrupt maneuvers can cause a temporary disruption of airflow through the engine, leading to compressor stall and possible flame out. The good news is that many modern jet engines can be restarted in flight, either automatically or by following specific restart procedures. Electrical system failures can also contribute to an engine quitting, especially in modern fuel-injected or electronically controlled engines. While traditional piston engines can run without electrical power thanks to magnetos, Newer systems may depend on electronics for fuel control and ignition. A loss of electrical power could therefore cause the engine to shut down. Turbine engines rely on electronic engine control units, FODIC full authority digital engine control, to manage fuel and airflow. If the FODIC loses power or malfunctions, the engine might revert to a safe mode or shut down entirely. Environmental factors can't be ignored either. Volcanic ash clouds, for instance, have been known to cause multiple engine failures in large airliners. The fine ash particles melt inside the hot sections of the engine, coating turbine blades with molten glass-like deposits that choke airflow and extinguish combustion. Pilots are trained to avoid such clouds entirely, but history has recorded incidents where flights encountered ash unexpectedly, leading to temporary engine shutdowns before successful restarts. Temperature extremes can also play a role. Very hot conditions can reduce engine performance by decreasing air density, making it harder for the engine to generate power. Extremely cold temperatures, if not managed with preheating and anti-icing systems, can cause fuel to gel or oil to thicken, making startup difficult and stressing components. Sometimes an engine quit is simply the result of pilot action, intentional or accidental. For instance, during certain training exercises, instructors may simulate engine failure by shutting down power to test the student's emergency handling skills. In other cases, incorrect use of mixture controls, throttle, or propeller settings can cause an unintended stoppage. Mismanagement of engine parameters, especially in multi-engine aircraft, can cause one engine to fail while the other continues operating. Despite these risks, it's important to note that aircraft engines are designed with incredible reliability. Engine failures are statistically rare, and even when they occur, pilots are trained to handle them. In single-engine planes, the immediate action is to establish best glide speed and look for a suitable landing area. In multi-engine planes, the pilot will secure the failed engine and continue flight if possible. For jets, flameout restart procedures are often practiced in simulators to ensure the crew can recover power. In flight, there's also a safety net built into the skies. Redundancy. Multi-engine aircraft can continue to fly, sometimes even climb, on just one engine. Critical systems like fuel pumps, ignition systems, and electrical generators often have backups. Maintenance protocols require regular inspection and replacement of parts before they reach failure points, drastically reducing the chance of sudden stoppages. Ultimately, while an engine quitting mid-flight is serious, it is not always catastrophic. It's the result of physics, mechanics, and sometimes human oversight. From fuel starvation to bird strikes, from mechanical wear to environmental hazards, each cause has a chain of events behind it, and aviation safety systems exist to break that chain before it ends badly. The combination of careful maintenance, rigorous training, and advanced technology makes modern flying safer than ever. Even in the face of this most feared scenario, the next time you hear about an aircraft engine quitting, remember that it is rarely a complete mystery. It's a story written in the language of engineering and aerodynamics, with clues in the fuel tanks, in the weather reports, in the maintenance logs, and sometimes in the pilot's own actions. The skies are unforgiving to complacency, but for those who respect the rules of flight, even an engine failure can be just another challenge to manage and overcome. Rather than a sentence of doom, it's a reminder that in aviation, knowledge and preparation are as important as the fuel in the tanks, and that understanding why engines quit is one of the most important lessons a pilot can learn.